He didn't answer. And in that silence, something inside me splintered. For the next few days, he was distant. He still touched me, still kissed me, but there was something missing. The intensity, the fire, the need, it was fading. I refused to believe it. But then one night I followed him. He left without a word, slipping out into the cold darkness, his posture tense. I trailed behind, my heart pounding, my breath coming in shallow gasps. He walked for blocks before stopping in front of an unfamiliar house. And then he went inside. I hesitated only for a second before following. The door was slightly ajar. Inside, the air smelled of old books and dust, of memories long buried. Then I saw them. Photographs. Scattered across the table, pinned to the walls.
Familiar faces.
My mother. A man I had never met. And him. My blood turned to ice. I took a step closer, my pulse deafening in my ears. And then I saw the truth. The man in the photograph. The one standing beside my mother. His arm wrapped around her waist. His father. My father. A strangled gasp escaped my lips. And then behind me a voice. You weren't supposed to find out this way. I turned slowly. And there he was. Standing in the doorway, his eyes dark, unreadable. Tell me this isn't real. I whispered, my voice shaking. He didn't say a word. And in that silence I knew. I had fallen in love with my own brother. And the worst part? He had known all along. I couldn't breathe. The walls of the room seemed to close in on me. The weight of the truth pressing down until I thought my knees might give out. My heart pounded in my chest. A deafening rhythm that drowned out everything else. He took a step forward. I took one back. Ava. He said my name softly, almost gently. But there was something behind his eyes that sent a chill down my spine. You knew, my voice trembled. This whole time you knew. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. You never meant to hurt me? I gestured wildly. What the hell do you think this is? He opened his mouth. But I didn't wait to hear it. I turned, stumbling toward the door. Ava. His voice was sharp, cutting through the air. I ignored him, my mind racing, my hands shaking. Then I felt his grip on my wrist. Let me go, I hissed, trying to yank myself free. But his hold tightened. And when I looked up, the man standing in front of me was no longer the one I had loved. He was something else. Something terrifying. His fingers curled around my wrist, strong, unyielding. There was no warmth left in his touch, only possession. My heart pounded in my chest, my body going rigid as I stared up at him. I can't let you leave like this, he said, his voice eerily calm. A wave of nausea rolled through me. You don't have a fucking choice. I yanked my arm, but he held firm, his grip tightening just enough to make me wince. His face was close now, his breath warm against my skin. You don't understand, he murmured. I didn't just want revenge. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. Then what? His other hand rose to cup my cheek, and I flinched at the tenderness in his touch. It was wrong. It was all so fucking wrong. I wanted you to need me. His voice was almost desperate. I wanted you to be mine. A shudder ran through me. I hate you, I whispered, and something in his eyes flickered. Pain maybe, or something darker. He leaned in, his lips brushing against my ear. You don't. I squeezed my eyes shut, while rising in my throat. This wasn't love. This was a nightmare. A twisted game I hadn't even realized I was playing. Let me go, I said again, my voice quieter this time, but no less firm. For a long moment he didn't move. Then slowly his fingers loosened. I wrenched myself free, stumbling backward. I didn't look at him as I turned and ran, my vision blurred with unshed tears. I didn't stop until I was outside, the cold air burning my lungs. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone, my fingers fumbling as I dialed the only number I could think of. The call rang once, twice, then a voice. Ava. My breath came in ragged gasps. I need help. I sat in the car, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My breaths came in uneven bursts, my chest rising and falling too fast. The night air felt suffocating, even with the windows rolled down. The voice on the other end of the phone was urgent. Ava? What's wrong? I swallowed hard, forcing the words out. I found out the truth. Silence. Then, where are you? I turned my head. glancing at the darkened house I had just fled from. My skin still burned where Damien had touched me, the ghost of his grip lingering like a stain. My stomach twisted violently. I don't know if I should say, I whispered. I don't know who to trust. Sigh. Ava, come to my place. We'll talk there. I hesitated. I had nowhere else to go. And I couldn't stay here. My entire world had just shattered in the span of minutes. And I needed someone, to hold on to before I lost myself completely. Okay, I murmured. Then ended the call. I turned the key in the ignition, my heart still hammering against my ribs. I needed to get away. I needed to breathe. The moment I stepped into Ryan's apartment, Ryan exhaled, dragging a hand through his hair. Jesus Christ. I don't know what to do, I whispered. He won't let me go, Ryan. I saw it in his eyes. He doesn't just want to ruin me. He wants to own me. Ryan's jaw clenched. You're not going back there. I let out a humorless laugh. And what am I supposed to do? Run. He'll find me. Ryan's gaze was intense. Then we make sure he doesn't. Something about the way he said it sent a shiver down my spine. I frowned. What do you mean? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned away, pacing the length of the room. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. Dangerous. I've seen guys like him before. They don't stop. Not unless someone makes them. I struggled to stay upright. He stepped closer, voice low. Does it change anything, Ava? I blinked at him, incredulous. Are you seriously asking me that? His fingers brushed my arm, the same way they always had. But now it felt different. Wrong. I shook my head. You don't get to say that. Not after everything. He exhaled slowly. So what now? I lifted my chin. I'm leaving. Something flickered in his gaze. I don't think you are. Damien would never let me go. My hands clenched into fists as Damien stepped closer, his presence suffocating. His dark eyes locked onto mine with a quiet intensity that made my skin crawl. I knew then he wasn't going to let me leave. I don't think you understand, Ava, he murmured, voice smooth as silk yet laced with something darker. You don't get to walk away from me. I forced myself to hold my ground. Watch me. His lips curved into a slow, mocking smile. You're carrying my child. I stiffened. You don't know that. He arched a brow. Don't I? My stomach twisted. He was bluffing, he had to be. I hadn't told him the full truth. He didn't know that there was a chance this baby wasn't his. But the way he spoke, the certainty in his voice, made a sliver of doubt creep into my mind. Even if it is yours, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. That doesn't mean I belong to you. His fingers reached up, tucking a loose strand of hair behind my ear. The touch sent a shiver through me, not from pleasure but from the cold, calculated way he did it. I think you do. I slapped his hand away, stepping back.
No, Damien.
This game you've been playing? It's over. His expression darkened, the amusement slipping away. You don't get to decide that. I forced out a bitter laugh. That's where you're wrong. I turned on my heel, heading for the door, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear anything else. I expected him to grab me, to force me back into his twisted world, but he didn't move. Do you think Ryan can save you? He asked, voice low. I froze, my fingers hovering over the doorknob. I know he's waiting outside. There's a chance it's yours. His eyes darkened, his jaw clenching. And you didn't think to tell me sooner? I wasn't sure. My voice wavered. I still don't know. Ryan let out a harsh breath, running a hand through his hair. He stood abruptly, pacing the room. Jesus, Ava. I swallowed hard. I'm sorry. He stopped, turning to face me. You don't have to be sorry.